So here are the 5 top mistakes that investors make when they get started investing in real estate. Number 1, not starting. Ask successful real estate investors and they'll tell you, I wish I had started earlier. I waited 4 years from the time that I was like super decided to invest in real estate until I actually did it because I didn't feel ready. And I had this whole plan on all the things that I needed to do to be ready to invest in real estate. The reality is that none of that really mattered because when I started investing in real estate, I still had no idea what I was doing. The books didn't really translate to the reality. And so if this is you waiting for the right time for you to be ready, the right time is today. Because when you look back, you're going to be like, oh, I wish I started back then. That is number 1 mistake, not getting started. Mistake number 2 is analyzing the deals without taking into account major things like maintenance and repairs, property management. A lot of times, like, well, I'm going to manage it, so I'm not going to build in the numbers with property management. But what happens when your situation changes, right? Let's say you decide, like, I have to move, or this is not my thing, and you didn't build property management to your numbers, then you're going to find yourself in a situation that, like, oops, or being super positive with like maintenance and repairs. Like, some people will be like, oh, well, I'm going to rehab it completely and I'm just going to estimate, 3% maintenance repairs. The reality is that tenants will probably damage the properties from time to time. You're going to have high turnover cost, all these different things. And if you just have 3% for maintenance and repairs and 5% for capital expenditures, you're probably going to be short. I usually like to be conservative and I do 10 to 15% depending on the location of the property and the type of property for maintenance and repairs. And then I also have a capital expenses reserve as well. And I build that into my numbers. If the deal works like that, then good for me, because then at that point, everything else that I save is going to go into the profit. But you got to run the numbers conservatively. And I think a lot of people get super excited and they're like, oh, okay, the rent is, $1,500, the mortgage is $1,000, I'm going to make $500. And then when things actually happen, you end up making $0, negative dollars. So keep that in mind when you're analyzing a deal. Don't be super positive. In my guidebook, I actually have benchmarks that I use specifically so that you can analyze deals more conservatively. Now, mistake number 3 that I see new investor making is underestimating rehab. So a lot of times they walk in, house looks great, it's only going to be $5,000 rehab. And then when you get started doing the work, you realize that there's so much more work to be done because they don't take into account the age of the air conditioning, the water heater, the roof, the electrical, like major items that will break the bank. Just funny story about my own investing mistakes. I bought a property and I didn't read the inspection report in detail. And it was a multifamily and I didn't realize that one of the units, the HVAC, wasn't working. I only realized this when I was about to list it for rent. The HVAC wasn't turning on, And then we sent a tech and he's like, yeah, you got to replace it. And then I go to the inspection report and it was right there. So one of the things that you want to make sure is that you get an inspection report, that you read it in detail, that you pay attention to those years. And if something is coming to the end of its life, then you want to be like, hey, seller, I need a credit for this. Or you want to budget that into your rehab numbers. You also want to make sure you take into account potential foundation issues, things that are not cosmetic, because I think a lot of times we get so caught up with the cosmetic side that we forget about the structure, and those are the big ticket items. Just keep that in mind. So that's mistake number 3. Mistake number 4 that investors make is not having systems and processes in place for their properties. Especially if you're going to be self-managing, you want to make sure you have systems in place for leasing, inspections, managing the tenants, rent collection, how to handle maintenance requests, all these different things. You want to have that ahead of time. And a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to go with the flow and see. But you don't realize that a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to go with the flow and see. But you don't realize that this takes a lot of brain energy from yourself, especially if you have a W-2 job. And then that's how investors end up getting super overwhelmed and they scale super fast, but they have 0 systems in place. And so they have to get to a point where they have to backtrack and be like, now I got to put these systems in place. I can't scale because everything is chaos, or they just feel so overwhelmed and they're like, oh, the real estate is not for me. But it's because you didn't have those processes in place. There is software out there that can help you set up the rental process. And so we want to start thinking about that from the moment that you say, I'm going to buy a property. That is something that not a lot of people think about because it's like, it's the boring part, right? Let's be honest. But it's so important and it could save you time and money in the long run. Now, fifth mistake that investors make is related to the fourth one, and that is not having a bookkeeping system set up. And so what happens is you bought the property and you're super excited and you just start swiping in your own personal credit card, sending wires from your personal bank account, or you open a bank account for the business. But, a year goes by, tax season comes in, your accountant says, pass me your books, and you have 0 books. Now you have to backtrack for your expenses. You don't remember what happened in January, and you miss deductions that you could have taken because you forgot about this receipt that was paid with this other card. You didn't track this, you didn't reimburse, and then you become super overwhelmed and you hate tax season. And then it continues going for years. When you start investing in real estate, if you set up those systems and processes from day one, then it becomes easier over time. And then also, having your books and records clean will help you not only accomplish your real estate goals, but your personal finance freedom journey. Because if you know your numbers and you understand your numbers, you're able to scale better. You're able to make better financial decisions that will get you to where we need to go. So those are the 5 top mistakes in my books. But of course, there's so many more things I could talk about, but we're not going to do this in this video. Make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to my channel. And if you're looking for a guide that walks you through the ABCs of investing, make sure you check the link in the description. I also have some other resources about setting systems and processes in place for real estate investors. So you can check that out as well. Until the next video.